Welcome, everybody, to the first ever edition of the ADP Show here at Dynasty League Football. I'm Dan Myler. With me, Ryan McDowell. Ryan, this is a new thing for us, brand new venture. We're going to spend 10, 15 minutes every now and then talking about the ADP that you work so hard collecting every month. That right now seems like every day, I suppose.
Yeah. This is a great time for ADP. We'll be starting our new startup ADP mocks very soon. Get some new data, find out how high those rookies are going to go. But right now we've got some brand new rookie ADP post NFL draft that we want to check out today.
Yeah, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about that. Of course, Ryan McDowell, one of the partners at DLF. I'm Dan Myler, one of the senior writers over at DynastyLeagueFootball.com. Also, the two of us co-hosts at the DLF Dynasty podcast. So we regularly get together, Ryan, to talk about everything Dynasty related. It's fun to talk about this ADP, though. And although today's topic is going to be really centered around this new rookie ADP that you've been gathering over the last couple days since the draft, we're going to jump around from topics every single week or whenever we get together, really. So sometimes we'll be talking startups, sometimes we'll be talking rookies. We'll always be talking ADP, though. So we have a lot of great things going on at DLF, including that ADP, the rookie ADP, which is going to hit soon, but we're going to preview that now. Also, rookie content every single day. We're hitting the site hard with all these good breakdowns of these rookies that were just drafted. So if you haven't been, go check out DynastyLeagueFootball.com and get all that information so you're prepared for your rookie draft. Speaking of preparation for that rookie draft, let's start talking about this ADP that you've been collecting over the last handful of days since the NFL draft, Ryan. We're going to go kind of by tier. It seems to be breaking down that way, and it seems like there's a lot of different opinions out there. Starting at the top, who's going to be that number one guy? It doesn't seem like there's going to be a consensus, Ryan.
Yeah, I don't think there is. So we run, for our rookie mock drafts, we run 10 mock drafts each month, and it's not a slam dunk pick. The past few months pre-draft, or past couple months, I should say, it was Jonathan Taylor. Early in the offseason, it was DeAndre Swift. Now that the NFL draft is over, we have a new 101, just barely grabbing that spot by a percentage point. But it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's the only running back drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, lands in the perfect spot that we were all chasing with the Chiefs. He is the new 101 with an ADP of 1.5.
Yeah, that prime landing spot. We were all excited about who would end up in that Chiefs backfield. And then on top of it, drafted in the first round, the Chiefs' first pick. It's not that surprising that he jumped to the top, but Taylor, he's still hanging in there. You'd have to put him in the same tier.
He is. And in fact, I said it was a narrow margin. Edwards-Helaire's ADP is 1.5. Jonathan Taylor's 1.6. So it really is a toss up. If you've got a top two pick, in a one quarterback league, those are basically your two options. I can't imagine considering anyone else, even though the class is so deep, so talented, some great landing spots for the running backs and wide receivers. That top tier is a two-man group.
Yeah, we really fill up the cup at the top, though, with these running backs. We're not really sprinkling a whole lot of these wide receivers. Like you mentioned, there's lots of nice landing spots there as well, but considering all the great spots that these top five guys really landed in at the running back position, those guys are filling up this top five. It seems like there's another tier right below Edwards-Helaire and Taylor that they're neck and neck for that third spot as well.
Yeah, they are. And it's funny because pre-draft, there was talk about the big five running backs. There was talk about a top tier of 7 guys if you want to mix in a couple of those wide receivers that we'll get to. But now that we've got landing spots and that we've got draft capital, the tiers are really starting to show themselves in our ADP. And of course, when you're looking at the very top of a draft, whether it's a rookie draft or a startup, you're going to see very narrow margins. So the difference between Jonathan Taylor and the player at 3 is about 1.5. Actually 1.6. Taylor is a 1.6 ADP. At 3 overall, DeAndre Swift, a 3.2 ADP. So a little bit of a gap there, enough to draw a tier spot.
Yeah, and it mixed in just a little bit, Ryan. Swift went as high as 2 overall. So he moves up a little bit, hasn't claimed that number 1 spot in the 10 mocks that you're running, but always between 2 and 4, certainly worthy of that second tier overall at the rookie of these rookies. And then also at the running back position, it seems like J.K. Dobbins, he's hanging in there as well, though.
Yeah, Dobbins is close behind. Dobbins actually was drafted ahead of DeAndre Swift in 3 of our mock drafts and ends up in that same tier with an ADP of 4.3. So you've got Swift and Dobbins, the RB3 and RB4 in this class, in their own second tier.
Yeah, so we started things off in this most recent ADP that you've been collecting, this rookie ADP, with 4 running backs, and we've gone through 2 tiers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jonathan Taylor in tier 1, that followed up by Swift and Dobbins in tier 2. Then we start mixing in some of these running backs with the wide receivers. It starts off with Cam Akers, though.
Yeah, actually, at the 5th spot overall, we actually have a tie in our ADP. Cam Akers and the first wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, both with an ADP of 5.7 to kick off that third tier. And they're joined also by Jerry Jeudy. So we've got 3 players in the third tier: Cam Akers, CeeDee Lamb at 5.7, Jerry Jeudy at 7, at an ADP of 7, making him the 7th player. We did see Jeudy over Lamb in 3 of our 10 mock drafts.
One thing that's really interesting when looking over this ADP, Ryan, is the different highs and lows inside of one specific player. CeeDee Lamb goes as high as 4, as low as 7. Jerry Jeudy as high as 4, as low as 10. And we really start seeing the differentiations between these same players in different drafts as we move along. There just isn't a consensus this season.
There's really not. And as important as ADP is, those highs and lows are probably even more important if you're preparing for your rookie draft, because you know your spot and you're trying to decide, are you going to be able to get your guy? And if your guy is Jerry Jeudy, he's going anywhere from 4 to 10. That means if you really want him, you're going to have to probably move up to the 5, 6, 7 spot. You can't count on him falling to 10. That's not going to happen very often. Some of the other players that are higher, we're seeing tighter ranges. Cam Akers drafted anywhere from 5 to 7 in all 10 mocks. So we know basically that's where he's going, somewhere between 5 and 7.
Yeah, a little tighter there for sure. So we've covered 3 tiers in this first round of rookie ADP. Tier 4 is an intriguing one for sure. Lots of guys that are kind of all over the map when you listen to Dynasty analysts. I know there's guys that I'm higher on than others inside of this one, and it's kicked off really with Jalen Reagor.
It is. We see an interesting group here. This 4th tier is 4 players. So it takes us almost to the end of the first round. Jalen Reagor at 8.9. For some people, he's actually moved up to their wide receiver 1, overtaking Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. That didn't quite play out. That wasn't a popular enough opinion to play out in our mocks. But an ADP of 8.9 makes him the 8th player. Another wide receiver, Justin Jefferson, went right behind Jalen Reagor in the NFL draft, and he goes right behind Jalen Reagor in our ADP as well. An ADP of 9.6 makes him the 9th player. At 10, we've got a really interesting player. We've talked a lot about Clyde Edwards-Helaire rising up the board. This guy's been maybe the top riser overall. Is Keyshawn Vaughn. Was a player that was maybe a late 2nd rounder pre-draft, maybe even fell into the 3rd round in some of our mocks. And now here he is with a first-round ADP, 10th overall, an ADP of 9.9, right behind Justin Jefferson. That's too rich for my blood, Dan. I'm not taking Keyshawn Vaughn in the first round, but that's what our ADP says. And this 4th tier ends with one of your guys, Henry Ruggs. He was the first wide receiver drafted in the NFL draft. He's the wide receiver 5 in our Dynasty rookie ADP. An ADP of 10.5 puts him in this 4th tier.
Ryan, you and I both do rookie rankings over at DLF. If any of you guys want to check those out, click over to dynastyleaguefootball.com, click on the rankings, and you'll see how we value these guys. But you were right. Vaughn, he's a little bit lower. He falls into the second round for both of us. Not quite as sold as some of your followers on Twitter, some of the people that we have involved in all of these mock drafts. So perhaps we'll be wrong about Vaughn. We'll see how that plays out. You mentioned Ruggs being one of my guys. Man, it feels like one of those years, Ryan, when you're getting a guy like Henry Ruggs, the first wide receiver off the board late in the first round of Dynasty rookie drafts. Man, that's a heck of a year for us Dynasty owners.
It really is. And this fourth tier also I wanted to mention is where we start seeing some of these players become second rounders. Jalen Reagor had a low of 13, so he was the 2.01 in one of our mock drafts. The same exact position for Keyshawn Vaughn and for Henry Ruggs. All three of those players fell to number 13 overall in at least one of those mock drafts. So again, you don't want to assume you're going to get them there. Look at that high instead of the low when you're planning your rookie drafts.
What's so nice to think about, though, is there are teams out there that are in desperate need for help. They earn that number one pick. They're going to get a guy like JT or Edwards-Helaire at the top, and there's still the possibility of getting one of those wide receivers or even Keyshawn Vaughn with that 13th pick. Maybe some of these other guys we're going to mention. We covered the top 11, of course, but to get through that first round of ADP, there's a whole nother group that fits into the end of the ADP. Those championship rosters, those guys that won their title in 2019, Ryan, what are some of the names they're expected to look at according to our most recent ADP?
Well, we have a big surprise. At least it was a big surprise to me at the 12th pick overall, because Joe Burrow, the quarterback, who of course was the top overall pick to the Bengals, is the 12th pick. He's got a first round ADP. Now, we saw this last year with Kyler Murray, but I think the hype was different with Kyler Murray entering the league, and not that we don't expect Burrow to have a lot of success, but it's just a little bit of a different feeling and certainly a different class than we saw last year. So I'm really surprised to see Burrow as that 12th player. If you're like me, if you're like Dan, and you don't want to take that quarterback in the first round, you've got some other great options. We've got T. Higgins right behind Burrow, Denzel Mims close there as well, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman, Bryan Edwards. All of these guys are in that fourth tier. All of those would be pretty strong options at the 1.12 pick. And they're all closely ranked. The great thing is this is a tier of 6 guys, Dan. So this gets us all the way to the 2.05. So even if you've got a mid-second, you're getting a guy like Michael Pittman or Bryan Edwards or Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, lots of good players in there. And we were talking about the highs and the lows. These guys are sneaking into the first round a few times in these mocks and then slipping all the way down close to the late teens. And even in Michael Pittman's case, he slipped to number 20 in one league. Joe Burrow did the same. There's so much range with all these players that you never know. If you have a guy in mind, you better move up to get him, like you were saying earlier, because there's no guarantees, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So this has been the first episode of the ADP show. Ryan, you're gathering all this data. We're going to continue to present this stuff in 10 to 15 minute segments. Try to get as much information out to our subscribers, our listeners, all the people that care about DLF and really care about Dynasty in general. You're doing all this work. You're collecting all this data. You're putting it out there for everybody. Tell people where we can find all this stuff once it posts.
Yeah, once our mocks are done, and they're very close, you can find that at dynastyleaguefootball.com. We'll have, as I mentioned earlier, not only do we have rookie ADP, we have rookie superflex ADP. We have startup ADP, both one quarterback and superflex, and we even have devy ADP. So whatever form of Dynasty you play, we probably have some ADP data for you.
Yeah, and on top of all that ADP data, we also have regular daily news hitting the website, regular write-ups by our great team of writers over at DLF, Ryan and myself included. That's going to do it for this episode, the first inaugural episode of the ADP Show. We're gonna be back, of course. We'll be back soon, covering all facets of ADP. For Ryan, I'm Dan. Thanks for watching this episode of the ADP Show. We'll catch you again next time.